What if the very thing you've spent years trying to hide is the reason you'll never be ordinary? Maybe you've always felt out of place, not because you were better than everyone else, not because you were worse, but because your mind has always worked differently. You've probably been called quiet, too sensitive, an overthinker, too intense, or hard to understand. So eventually, you did what most people do. You tried to become normal. You forced yourself into conversations that drained you. You laughed at jokes you didn't find funny. You agreed with people just to avoid conflict. You shrank parts of yourself just to fit into rooms that never truly felt like home. But what if that was never the answer? What if the goal was never to fit in, because you were never designed to? Today's psychology reveals something most people never realize. Many of the behaviors we mistake for weaknesses are actually signs of an unusually developed mind. Not a perfect mind, not a superior mind, simply a different one. And by the end of this video, you'll discover 10 psychological traits that quietly separate people who merely follow the world from those who experience it in a completely different way. You may recognize all of them. Either way, I think this video is going to change how you see yourself forever. Let's begin. Human beings have always been obsessed with one thing: belonging. For thousands of years, fitting into the tribe meant survival. Being accepted meant protection. Being rejected could mean death. Even today, your brain still carries that ancient programming. That's why criticism hurts. That's why rejection feels physical. That's why so many people spend their lives becoming someone they're not. Not because they want to, but because their brain mistakes acceptance for safety. Think about your own life. How many decisions have you made simply because everyone else expected you to? The career you considered, the way you dressed, the opinions you kept to yourself, the dreams you quietly abandoned, the version of yourself you presented to the world. Most people never stop to ask one dangerous question: what if the crowd is wrong? Because asking that question changes everything. Psychologists have discovered something fascinating. People who think independently often experience the world differently long before they ever realize why. They notice patterns others ignore. They ask questions others avoid. They become uncomfortable with superficial conversations. They crave meaning more than attention. Ironically, these qualities often make them feel isolated, not because they're antisocial, but because depth can feel lonely in a world addicted to distraction. Here's the mistake most people make. They assume being different automatically means something is wrong. It doesn't. Sometimes it simply means your mind is solving a different problem than everyone else's. Imagine walking through a museum with a group of people. Everyone else spends 5 seconds looking at each painting before moving on. But you stop. You notice details. The brush strokes, the expressions, the hidden symbols, the story beneath the obvious story. Eventually someone says, "Come on, you're overthinking it." But were you? Or were you simply paying attention? This happens far beyond museums. It happens in conversations, relationships, business, friendships, even silence. While most people hear words, some people notice hesitation. While others see confidence, they notice fear hiding underneath it. While everyone else is reacting, they're quietly observing. Not because they chose to, because that's simply how their mind works. Of course, being different comes with a price. You often feel misunderstood. You struggle to explain thoughts that seem obvious inside your own head. People assume you're distant when you're simply thinking. They assume you're cold when you're simply processing. They assume you're difficult when you're simply honest. And after hearing those labels long enough, you begin wondering whether they're right. Maybe I really do overthink. Maybe I really am strange. Maybe something is wrong with me. But psychology suggests another possibility. Maybe you've been measuring yourself using the wrong standard all along. Over the next few minutes, We'll explore 10 behaviors that frequently appear in people whose minds operate differently from the average. These aren't superpowers. They don't make anyone better than anyone else. Every strength carries a cost. Every personality has its burden. But understanding your own mind changes everything. Because the moment you understand why you are the way you are, you stop fighting yourself. And that's where real confidence begins. So let's start with the first behavior. Ironically, it's probably the one you've apologized for the most. Trait 1. You feel drained by noise, but recharged by solitude. Let's start with something you've probably been criticized for your entire life. You enjoy being alone. Not all the time, not because you hate people, not because you're antisocial, but because something happens to your mind when the world finally becomes quiet. Think about the last time you spent hours surrounded by people. Conversations, notifications, background music, someone asking for your attention every few minutes. By the end of the day, your body wasn't just tired. Your mind felt crowded. It's a strange kind of exhaustion. Sleep doesn't fix it. Coffee doesn't fix it. Only one thing does. Silence. The moment you close your door, turn off your phone, and allow the world to fade into the back, something inside you begins to wake up again. Most people misunderstand this completely. They assume solitude is loneliness. Psychology suggests otherwise. For many people, solitude isn't an escape from life. It's where their brain does its best work. Without constant stimulation, your attention stops reacting to the outside world and starts exploring the inside one. That's when ideas connect. Problems become clearer. Memories suddenly make sense. Questions you've been carrying for weeks quietly find their answers. It almost feels like your mind has been waiting for permission to think. The problem is that we live in a culture that celebrates constant stimulation. Being busy looks productive. Being social looks healthy. Being available all the time looks successful. So when someone enjoys long periods alone, people assume something must be wrong. But being alone and feeling lonely are two completely different experiences. Loneliness is wanting connection and not having it. Solitude is choosing space because it helps you become yourself again. There's another reason this matters. When you're alone, you're forced to meet the one person you can never escape, yourself. Most people avoid that meeting. They reach for another video, another notification, another conversation, anything to keep their mind occupied. Because silence has a way of revealing thoughts we'd rather ignore. But if you've learned to sit with your own thoughts, to question them, to challenge them, and sometimes even change them, you're developing something far more valuable than constant entertainment. You're developing self-awareness. And without self-awareness, real growth is impossible. The interesting part is this: people often admire wisdom, but they rarely admire the process that creates it, because wisdom usually grows in quiet places. During long walks, late-night reflections, journaling, reading, thinking, the world sees the result. It rarely sees the hours of silence that made it possible. So if you've ever been made to feel guilty for needing time alone, don't ask yourself whether you're spending too much time in solitude. Ask a better question. When you return from being alone, do you become a better version of yourself? If the answer is yes, then your solitude isn't a weakness. It's maintenance. And understanding that changes everything, because the first step toward understanding the world is learning how to be comfortable inside your own mind. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Some people enjoy being alone, but others can't stop asking questions about everything. And that's the second behavior that quietly separates different minds from ordinary ones. Trait 2. You rarely accept the first answer. Have you ever noticed something about yourself? Someone gives you an explanation, and instead of feeling satisfied, your mind immediately asks another question. Why? Then another. And what caused that? Then another. But what if that's only part of the story? It isn't because you're trying to be difficult. And it certainly isn't because you enjoy arguing. Your mind simply refuses to stop at the surface. Imagine watching an iceberg drift across the ocean. Most people look at the part above the water. They describe its size, its shape, its direction. Then they move on. But your attention drifts somewhere else. You begin wondering about the massive structure hidden beneath the surface, the part no one else can see. That's how your mind approaches almost everything. A conversation, a relationship, a business decision, even your own emotions. When someone says, "I'm fine," you don't just hear the words. You notice the pause before they spoke, the change in their voice, the smile that disappeared a second too quickly. You don't intentionally search for hidden meaning. Your brain simply notices details other people filter out. And once you notice them, you can't pretend they aren't there. That's both your greatest strength and one of your greatest burdens. Because the deeper you look, the harder it becomes to accept simple answers. Psychologists often describe curiosity as one of the strongest predictors of lifelong learning. But there's a difference between collecting information and searching for understanding. Many people want facts. Very few people want truth. Facts tell you what happened. Truth asks why it happened and whether it could happen again. That's why you've probably found yourself fascinated by subjects that don't have easy answers. Human behavior, psychology, history, philosophy, not because they're complicated, but because every answer uncovers another question. At times, this can be exhausting. There are days when you wish your mind would simply be quiet, when you wish you could accept things at face value, when you envy people who seem completely certain about everything. But certainty has a hidden cost. The moment you believe you've learned everything, you stop growing. Real thinkers understand something most people never do. Every new piece of knowledge expands the edge of the unknown. The more you discover, the more you realize how much remains unexplored. That's why genuine wisdom rarely sounds loud. It usually sounds curious. It asks, it listens, it changes. And perhaps that's the greatest difference of all. Your goal has never been to win every conversation. It's been to understand it. That mindset doesn't always make life easier. Sometimes it leaves you with more questions than answers. But it also protects you from one of the biggest traps the human mind can fall into: believing you already know enough. Because the people who stop asking questions rarely discover anything new. And the people who keep asking often change their entire lives with a single answer they almost didn't look for. Which brings us to the next behavior. It's one that confuses almost everyone around you. People mistake it for weakness, when in reality, it requires enormous psychological strength. Trait 3. You change your mind when the evidence changes. Here's a question most people never ask themselves. When was the last time I admitted I was wrong? Not because someone forced me to. Not because I lost an argument, but because I genuinely discovered a better way of thinking. If you can't remember, you're not alone. The human brain loves certainty. It loves familiar ideas. It loves beliefs that make us feel safe. Because changing your mind is surprisingly expensive. It requires admitting that the person you were yesterday didn't have the complete picture. And for many people, that feels like failure. But it isn't. It's growth. Imagine holding a map you've trusted for years. Every road, every landmark, every shortcut, you've relied on it so many times that you stop questioning whether it's accurate. Then one day, someone hands you a newer map. At first, you reject it. This can't be right. I've always gone this way. But after looking closer, you notice something. The new map explains problems the old one never could. At that moment, you have a choice. protect your pride, or improve your direction. Most people choose pride. Exceptionally thoughtful people choose progress. That's one of the quiet signs of psychological maturity. They don't build their identity around being right. They build it around getting closer to the truth. Notice the difference. If your identity depends on always being correct, every disagreement feels like an attack. Every new idea feels like a threat. Every correction feels embarrassing. But if your identity is built around learning, then every conversation becomes an opportunity. Every mistake becomes useful. Every challenge becomes a teacher. That's why emotionally secure people often say something surprisingly simple. I hadn't thought about it that way. To some people, those words sound weak. In reality, they require enormous confidence, because only someone who isn't afraid of looking imperfect can continue becoming wiser. This doesn't mean believing every opinion you hear. It doesn't mean changing your values every week. It means having the courage to ask one uncomfortable question. What if I'm missing something? That single question has changed scientific discoveries, saved businesses, repaired friendships, and transformed lives. History rarely remembers the people who refuse to change. It remembers the people who were brave enough to rethink everything they thought they knew. Ironically, the strongest minds aren't the hardest to influence. They're the hardest to fool. Because they don't accept ideas simply because they're familiar. They examine them patiently, honestly, without letting their ego make the decision first. And that brings us to another behavior that quietly separates different thinkers from the crowd. It has nothing to do with intelligence, and everything to do with where you choose to spend your attention. Trait 4, you protect your attention like it's your most valuable asset. Imagine waking up tomorrow without your phone, no notifications, no endless scrolling, no constant stream of opinions telling you what to think. How long do you think it would take before you reached for silence instead of stimulation? For most people, not very long, because attention has become the world's most valuable currency. Every app wants it, every headline fights for it, every notification interrupts it, and most people give it away without ever realizing what they're losing. But if you're different, you've probably noticed something. The more noise you consume, the harder it becomes to hear your own thoughts. That's why you don't always enjoy being available. You don't always reply instantly. You don't always follow every trend. Not because you think you're above everyone else, but because you've learned something many people never do. Your attention shapes your reality. Whatever you focus on slowly becomes your life. Spend every day consuming outrage, and eventually, the world begins to look dangerous. Spend every day comparing yourself to strangers, and nothing you achieve ever feels enough. Spend every free moment distracting yourself, and you'll eventually forget how to think deeply. Psychologists often describe attention as a limited resource. Every decision, every conversation, every notification consumes a small piece of it. Which means protecting your attention isn't selfish, it's necessary. Think about the people who inspire you, the ones who create meaningful work, the ones who stay calm under pressure, the ones who seem impossible to distract. None of them got there by reacting to everything. They got there by deciding what deserved their focus and what didn't. That's a difficult skill in today's world because saying yes feels easy. Checking one more notification feels harmless. Watching one more video feels insignificant. But tiny habits, repeated every day, quietly become your future. So if you've ever felt guilty for disconnecting, for turning your phone off, for choosing a quiet evening over another meaningless distraction, don't. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is protect the one thing you can never replace: your ability to pay attention. And once you learn to control your attention, you'll notice something even stranger. You begin seeing details that almost everyone else misses. Trait 5, you notice what other people miss. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt that something was off, even though no one had said a single word? Maybe everyone was smiling. The conversation sounded normal. Nothing looked unusual. But something inside you whispered, "This doesn't feel right." Most people ignore that feeling. You don't. Because your mind isn't just listening to words, it's paying attention to everything around them. A pause before someone answers, a forced smile, a sudden change in someone's tone, the way two people avoid looking at each other. Tiny details, almost invisible, yet somehow they tell a much bigger story. Psychologists call this pattern recognition. Your brain is constantly collecting small pieces of information and connecting them before you're even aware it's happening. That's why your first impression is often surprisingly accurate. Not because you're psychic, not because you can read minds, but because your brain notices hundreds of signals that your conscious mind never has time to explain. Unfortunately, this ability comes with a downside. People often think you're imagining things. They'll say, "You're overthinking. You're reading too much into it. You're too suspicious." Sometimes they're right. No one is correct all the time. But many times, weeks later, the truth finally comes out. And suddenly, the feeling you couldn't explain makes perfect sense. That's why you've learned to trust your intuition, not blindly, but respectfully. Because intuition isn't magic, it's experience, moving faster than conscious thought. The more life you experience, the more patterns your brain stores. And one day, those patterns begin protecting you before logic even catches up. That's a rare ability. But there's another habit that's even rarer. It has nothing to do with intelligence, and everything to do with emotional strength. Most people spend their lives trying to be understood. Different people spend their lives trying to understand others, and that changes everything. Trait 6, you care more about understanding than being understood. Here's something most people never admit. Almost every conversation is a competition. Not for truth, but for attention. While one person is speaking, the other is already preparing their response. They're not listening. They're waiting for their turn. That's why so many conversations leave people feeling unheard. Everyone wants to be understood. Very few people are willing to understand. But if you've always felt different, you've probably noticed yourself doing something unusual. Instead of asking, "How can I respond?" your mind asks, "What made them think this way?" Suddenly, arguments become less interesting, and curiosity becomes more important than proving yourself right. You become fascinated by questions like, what happened to them? What pain are they carrying? What fear is hiding behind their anger? Because you slowly realize something. People rarely behave the way they do without a reason. The coworker who constantly criticizes everyone may secretly feel inadequate. The friend who always needs attention may be terrified of being forgotten. The person who becomes angry over small things may have spent years feeling powerless. This doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it helps explain it. And understanding is powerful. Because the moment you understand someone's motivation, you stop taking everything personally. You realize not every insult is about you. Not every rejection is your fault. Not every disagreement is an attack. Sometimes, people are simply fighting battles you cannot see. Psychologists call this perspective taking. It's the ability to temporarily step outside your own experience and imagine the world through someone else's eyes. Ironically, this ability often makes you appear quieter, not because you have nothing to say, but because you're observing before reacting. You're listening before judging, You're thinking before speaking. In a world where everyone wants the last word, that kind of patience is rare. And sometimes, people mistake your silence for weakness. They assume you're shy, passive, or lacking confidence. They couldn't be more wrong, because choosing not to react requires far more strength than reacting without thinking. Real emotional maturity isn't controlling other people, it's controlling yourself. It's knowing that every opinion doesn't deserve your energy, every argument doesn't deserve your attention, and every misunderstanding doesn't require an explanation. The older you become, the more peaceful life gets. The moment you stop trying to convince everyone to see the world your way, instead, you become curious. You ask better questions. You listen more deeply. And strangely enough, that's when people begin listening to you. Because the people with the loudest voices usually create the least change. The people who understand others often change lives without ever raising their voice. And that leads us to the next trait, one that many people mistake for weakness, but is actually one of the clearest signs of inner strength. Trait 7: you don't need constant validation. Most people don't realize how much of their life is controlled by one question. What will other people think? It influences the clothes they wear, the opinions they share, even the dreams they chase. But if you've always felt different, you've probably noticed something. Approval feels good, but it doesn't control your decisions. Of course, you appreciate respect. Everyone does. But you no longer need strangers to tell you who you are. Because the moment your self-worth depends on applause, you'll spend your life performing. Psychologists call this an external source of validation. The more you depend on it, the easier it becomes for other people to control your emotions. One compliment can make your day. One criticism can ruin your week. That's exhausting. Truly different people slowly learn another way to live. They measure success by their values, not by other people's opinions. That doesn't mean they ignore feedback. It means they don't let every opinion become their identity. The truth is, people will judge you no matter what you do. If you stay quiet, they'll call you shy. If you speak confidently, they'll call you arrogant. If you follow your own path, some will admire you, others will criticize you. You can't control that. But you can control one thing: whether you believe them. The day you stop chasing everyone's approval, you finally have enough energy to build the life you actually want. And that's when something unexpected happens. You stop trying to impress people and start becoming someone worth remembering. Trait 8: you'd rather be alone than pretend to be someone you're not. There comes a moment in life when you realize fitting in has a price. The price is yourself. Maybe you've experienced it before. Laughing at jokes you didn't find funny, agreeing with opinions you didn't believe, pretending to enjoy conversations that left you completely drained. Not because you wanted to, but because you wanted to belong. Then something changed. You discovered that loneliness isn't always caused by being alone. Sometimes, it's caused by hiding who you really are. Psychologists have found that people who constantly wear a social mask often experience more stress and emotional exhaustion. Why? Because pretending requires energy. Every smile you fake, every opinion you suppress, every version of yourself you invent pulls you further away from your real identity. Different people eventually stop playing that game. They'd rather lose fake relationships than lose themselves. Yes, that choice can feel lonely at first. Some people will stop understanding you. Others may even walk away. But the people who stay because they know the real you, not the performance, not the mask. The truth is, authenticity is expensive. It costs approval. It costs comfort. Sometimes it even costs friendships. But in return, it gives you something far more valuable: freedom. The freedom to speak honestly, to live honestly, and to finally feel at home inside your own life. And once you stop pretending, you begin noticing one final difference that separates truly exceptional people from everyone else. Trait 9: you don't chase happiness, you chase meaning. Most people spend their lives asking one question: how can I be happier? It's not a bad question, but it often leads to short-term answers: more money, more attention, more entertainment, more distractions. For a moment, those things feel exciting. Then the feeling fades, and the search begins again. But if you've always felt different, the moments that changed your life were rarely the easiest ones. They were the moments that challenged you, the moments that forced you to grow, the moments that made you question everything you thought you knew. Because deep down, you don't just want comfort, you want purpose. Psychologists have long observed that people who connect their lives to a sense of meaning often remain motivated even when life becomes difficult. Not because they enjoy suffering, but because they understand why they're moving forward. That's a powerful difference. Pleasure asks, what feels good today? Meaning asks, what will matter years from now? One disappears overnight, the other stays with you for a lifetime. Maybe that's why you've never been satisfied with living on autopilot. You don't just want to exist, you want your life to stand for something. And that desire is far rarer than most people realize. Because the people who spend their lives chasing meaning eventually become the people who inspire everyone else. And that brings us to the final trait, the one that quietly ties everything together. Trait 10: you never stop becoming. Here's the final trait, and in many ways, it's the one that creates all the others. Exceptionally different people never believe they've arrived. No matter how much they learn, they remain curious. No matter how successful they become, they know there's still another level. While others chase the feeling of finally making it, they focus on becoming a little wiser than they were yesterday. Because growth isn't an event, it's a habit. They read when no one is watching. They reflect when everyone else is distracted. They admit mistakes instead of hiding them. They ask questions instead of pretending to know everything. And over time, those small decisions create an extraordinary life. The truth is, being different isn't about having a higher IQ. It isn't about being more talented. It isn't about thinking you're better than everyone else. It's about refusing to stop growing. Refusing to let fear decide your future. Refusing to become the same person year after year. Most people change because life forces them to. Different people change because they choose to. And that choice quietly transforms everything. So, if you recognized yourself in some of these traits, don't rush to give yourself a label. This video wasn't about proving you're special. It was about reminding you that being different isn't something you need to fix. Some people spend their entire lives trying to fit into places that were never meant for them. Others eventually realize their greatest strength was never fitting in. It was staying true to themselves. Keep questioning, keep learning, keep paying attention, keep protecting your peace. And most importantly, never let the world convince you that thinking differently is something to be ashamed of. Because every breakthrough, every great idea, every meaningful change in history started with someone who was willing to see the world differently. Maybe that's your greatest difference too. And if this video made you see yourself from a new perspective, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe for more psychology videos that help you understand yourself and the world around you